Many thanks for staying with us. Let's now tell you that many Nigerians have condemned the large entourage of President Bola Tinubu to Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, for the climate summit with over 1,400 delegates. Of these, 1,411 attending from Nigeria. At least 589 followed the president directly to the conference, including cabinet ministers and their aides. Civil servants are also on the list, including officials whose purviews did not cover climate policy. This would reportedly cost Nigeria billions at a time Tinubu's administration is asking the country's citizens to endure further hardship as a result of the removal of subsidy on petrol. Each delegate would spend millions of naira on accommodation and logistics during the trip. This year's conference, which started on November 30, will end on December 12. In the meantime, the presidency has explained why 1,411 Nigerian delegates accompanied President Bola Tinubu to the ongoing COP28 climate summit holding in Dubai. According to the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Temitope Ajayi, not all Nigerians at the event were sponsored by the federal government. In the article titled Nigeria at COP28, Separating the Facts from Fiction, Ajayi said the Nigerian delegation includes business leaders, environmentalists, climate activists, and journalists. Joining me in the studio for more on this is Nelson Ekunjimi. He is a public affairs analyst. Nelson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Good afternoon, viewers.
All right, you're welcome. Now, in the light of the economic challenges and hardships faced by so many Nigerians, how would you evaluate the government's decision to send over 1,400 delegates to COP28? Do you believe it reflects the priorities of government to even start with?
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to correct the misinformation out there that the government sponsored 1,400. And when I listened to your prologue with regards to the opening of this topic, I didn't see where I have also read it. The special assistant to the president wasn't defending the large delegation. It was separating the facts from fiction. And it is the fact that there are thousands of Nigerians who are in Dubai for COP28 for various reasons. We have business moguls there, we have journalists, we have civil society, then we have government agencies as well as government officials. We all know that COP has several segments, that has to do with areas of specialization. And what the special assistant to the Mr. President has told us is that the delegation that came with Mr. President is far below what is being peddled in the media. So I want to encourage the media to go the whole org of investigating to know really those that went with Mr. President. I also know for free that we have governors there. We have PAMSEC of ministries. I don't know of any ministry or area of government that we can talk of today that is responsible and will shy away from looking at issues that has to do with climate change, because climate change is an issue, it has become a pandemic that, that threatens our humanity, and it deserves all the seriousness that governments from Nigeria can give to it, just like we have governments of other countries in the world also attending this summit in Dubai.
But Ekunjimi, it's quite understandable what the importance or the significance of the summit holds. But then, aside the number of delegates that actually went with the president to the summit, the issue would also, we also need to talk about the issue of the funds that will be expended to cover for the expenses of those who actually went with the president. And that is where the crux of the challenge or the problem is. Millions of naira will be spent to have those people, of course, with the president at the summit to lodge, for logistics, feeding and everything. And people are saying that we have security concerns, we have economic issues, we have so many areas of the economy, sectors of the economy that are needing funds. Even the budget as it is, we do not even know from where the funds will come from to finance the budget or to fund the budget. So that should be a core priority of government rather than have these number of people go with the president to the summit. So don't you think that should be a core priority of the President Bola Tinubu administration at this time?
Well, sadly and traumatically for me, that we have become a people who measure the life of citizens in terms of naira and kobo. I don't know how much can, compensate for the life of a Nigerian if anybody recognizes the danger that climate change has, wreaked on our nation, Nigeria. The Boko Haram war, the banditry and other crimes affecting the Nigerian state today cannot be divorced from climate change. The farmer cannot go to the farm because the weather has become something else. He cannot plant. The rains are not coming when it's supposed to. The herder has no water, has no grass to pasture his flock. And because of the lack of availability of employment, of keeping himself in business, he has to drop that legitimate business and has to embrace crime, in which lives have been lost, properties have been destroyed, national unity has been threatened, and somebody is equating it in terms of naira and kobo. If anybody has fact that those who are there have no reasons to be there, I'll be very much pleased to align with that line of thought. But as a Nigerian, as somebody who recognizes the sanctity of human life, I will never equate any human life with all the money in the world, because no money can, compensate for a life, because you don't know how a life can turn the world around. Today, we have seen developments in our society, in the world. These are developments that have been brought about by innovative ideas of individuals and groups. So you can imagine where our world will be today if we didn't have such persons alive. If we had monetized their life that, they can be killed and, we want to get money for it. So for me, there's no aspect. Is it in terms of security? Is it in terms of health? Is it in terms of agriculture? Is it in terms of employment? Is it in terms of medicine? There's no aspect of the human life that you are talking today that climate change is not very important.
But then, Ekunjimi, we have different countries who have lesser delegates. I was actually trying to pull up the stats now, but of course, we had other countries that had about 700, about 500 in some instances. Even the United States of America, that's also concerned and at the forefront of discussions around climate change, has lesser delegates attending the COP28. So why is it much of a concern for Nigeria? Because when you look at the comparison with China, we know what China's population is. So if they can send about 1,400, we understand the size of the economy. We understand the size of the power they have when it comes to global affairs and discussions. Why is it much of a concern for Nigeria that you have to expend human resource to that point and expend financial resource also to that point?
Well, the truth of the matter is that what is affecting Nigeria is not what is affecting China. China is not battling with insurgency, Boko Haram or banditry. I'm not sure China is battling with, all this crime. You talk about the Lake Chad region, where Nigerians, as well as people living in the West African sub-region, have become decimated, just like you kill chicken for Christmas or any festivity. And again, I think we need to get it clear. The government has come out to say, this delegation that you are ascribing to us, they didn't come on government posts. Are you telling me now that the Lagos State governor, who is in COP28, don't forget, even those involved in the construction of roads, construction of railways, those in the civil engineering and mechanical engineering and what have you, are also involved, in COP28 because it's about climate change, the greenhouse emission that has, undermined, that is threatening our existence. So the government has come out to say, as I speak to you, I belong to a network of, climate change advocacy group. Over 200 of our members are in COP28. If I had gotten the funding, right now, I'll be speaking to you from COP28. If you had wanted to talk to me, I shouldn't be in Lagos, Nigeria. So if I had gotten the funding from developmental partners, from network partners, are you going to say because I'm a Nigerian that I'm in COP28, that I was sponsored by the Nigerian government, by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu government? Again, I want to ask, we have governors in in COP28. We have ministries, we have agencies. Are we saying that these governors who are in COP28, maybe we can sarcastically say that these governors are being sponsored by the federal government, when we know that these are subnationals that have their own resources and their own legitimate authority. So the fact of the matter is that the figures is not correct. The government has come out. We have seen business moguls in COP28, and nobody has come out to say, oh, this number of persons were sponsored by the government. Okay. So people should stop flying around with rumors and insinuations.
Okay, and now the talk is around renewable energy, transition to renewable energy, climate financing. We know that a couple of these world powers have made pledges that they would be committing funds to deal with the attendant issues of climate change, most especially as it affects developing countries, vulnerable countries, and African countries. Let's just put it that way. Now, with Nigeria's participation at COP28, what discussions do you think that the African contingent or delegates should be bringing forward to help Nigeria and to help Africa? Returning back to Nigeria, what are the conversations that you're expecting and the engagements and the policies and implementations that you're expecting from these delegates by the time they return to Africa?
Well, I want to take a cue from the comment of the South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa, who called for climate justice. We are all aware, and it's an established fact, that the depletion of the ozone layer by 95% is being done by the Western world because of their industrialization. That Africa bears the greatest brunt of this climate change. Today, our farmers, because of the change in weather, as a result of the depletion of the ozone layer, the greenhouse gas emission, that is why you see governments, like the government of Lagos State, establishing a blue rail line that is electric powered, that is, electric powered. And you are talking about buses that are solar powered. So the world is moving to, cleaner energy. And what Africa is going there to clamor for is that we contribute just 5%. You that contribute 95%, that we bear the brunt. How are you going to help us to remedy our losses, to remedy our disadvantageous position, to remedy the drying up of the Lake Chad region, such that our people don't have a means of livelihood any longer because of the damage, to the ozone layer? Those are the advocacy that the African countries are going. And we should not also forget that in the midst of the campaigns, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu publicly said he was going to call on the Western world to come and recharge the Lake Chad, region. So Africa is going there for justice, because Africa that contributes less than 5% is bearing the brunt of, injustice created that, totals almost 95%. And if you are contributing 5% to a mess and somebody is contributing 95%, it behoves on you to say, come on, you need to come and remedy the havoc you have wreaked on me. So that is exactly what the African countries are going there, have been, advocating at that confab.
All right. Though we still understand that Africa contributes about 5%, we still see African countries, because of the natural resources, which majorly has to do with oil and gas, we still see them tilting towards fossil fuel. And of course, that's a major market for them. We also have issues of gas flaring, and that adds to the carbon emissions that we have in the atmosphere. So looking at that, do you think Africa is actually ready to do away with these condiments, or should I say these factors that aid or add to the amount or the quantity of carbons that we have in the atmosphere, which actually depletes the ozone layer and the atmosphere and all that, compared with other countries that are already establishing facilities and trying as much as possible to harmonize and harness renewable energy and resources?
Yes, the essence of COP28 is to get global commitments. You cannot do it alone. Africa alone cannot do it. It's a global issue, because even if Africa is cleaning up its mess and the Western world is putting in the mess, then Africa's effort in cleaning up the mess pales to nothingness. So it is imperative on Africa to go to COP28, like we say in Yoruba, that the person or ẹnu ọlọ́rọ̀ lọ̀rọ̀ tí ń dùn. It is the person who is bearing the brunt that can tell the story. Somebody should know. You should not stay in your home and expect somebody to go and tell your story. He cannot tell the story because even when you tell a story, the passion with which you tell your story will send a clear message that when somebody who doesn't feel the pain, he can be telling the story lackadaisically and people will be wondering, is it really true? But when somebody is telling the story and you can see the anger in his face, in his voice, in his mannerism, so you tell the story better. So the issue about COP28 is that it's a global issue. It has to be handled globally. Africa alone cannot go that way until the whole world comes to that agreement, which is the essence of this conference, that look, this is a mess that the whole world has created, and the whole world must come together in unity to eradicate the mess.
Nelson Ekunjimi, Public Affairs Analyst, thank you so much for your time and your contribution on the news.
Thank you very much for having me.